A long journey is weary and traveling. Like a marathon, it is a relentless trial that burns away everything but the essential. And for the followers of the Order of the Dreadful Knights, the road north east was a trial. The initial thrill of their quest had long since faded and was replaced by the grim day-to-day, a struggle for survival. Adventurers they once were, now beset upon by various dangers, snakes and banditry, weatherful deserts of surviving thirst, and also the dreaded mountains. They were ghost haunted by the faces of their comrades they were forced to bury in the unforgiving wilderness. And there would always be opportunities for potentials, such as that as Kudayar. And they would lose many warriors in the mountains of bitter wounds, and the mood in the camp would be like a funeral, and it is like that a heavy blanket of gloom that not even the fires could lift. And we find ourselves in the Unnamed camp as she looks upon her warriors, grim and battered. And in those things she emerged from her tent amongst the misery, her expression unreadable, and her mind calculating all of the gains and losses so far, and through her own internal thoughts. They grow weary. The mortals are fragile things, easily broken by hardships. Their sadness is a contagion, a sickness of the spirit. It serves no purpose. Survival is not a matter of spirit, but of will and of resources. Our coffers are bleeding, our provisions are starving, and this passive suffering must end. And we must build our own fortune and not become victims of it. And as she glided towards past the fire, her two childs, Nastaran and Ab-Latif, await. Nastaran looks up as she approaches, her posture coiled like a viper, and her eyes burning with fierce, unwavering loyalty. And Ab-Latif sits hunched over a book, though he is not reading. His face, once alight with intellectual curiosity, was clouded by deep, deep trouble. I have found us work, a contract in the city just beyond the hills. And Nastaran immediately hops to her feet, a chance to prove her worth. Over the brooding scholar, she is eager. What is the nature of the work, my sire? A protection detail? Maybe we're doing an escort mission. Whatever it is, we are ready. I am ready. And the Unnamed gives an approving glance to Nastaran before letting her gaze settle on Ab. Our task is more simple. There is a local magnate, a woman by the name of Mastana. She is known for her vanity and for the heavy hearse she carries. We are going to take it from her. The words hang in the air. For Nastaran, it is a simple act, but for Ab-Latif, it was a moral abomination, and he would slowly close his book, the sound echoing the finality of a closing tomb. He rises to his feet, his eyes filled not with the fear of a subordinate, but with the painful disappointment of a teacher watching his prize student fail a test. A robbery? We are to become common thugs, accosting women in the street? My lady, my sire, I left the world of honor and principle to join you, and I did so because I believed you were a key to understanding the grand secrets of existence, and I believed we were building a new order in a house founded on a great and terrible purpose. But is this that purpose? To become pirates on a sea of mud? The unnamed will then listen patiently to Ab's plea. And it was not considered an argument to her, but rather critical information. And he would be revealing his utility and the limits of his current conditioning by mortal laws. The scholar's flaw. He believes the method defines the mission, and he thinks the ink pot is more than the words written. He cannot see that the gold stolen will pay for the lore we uncover tomorrow, and his honor is a cage. A beautiful, intricate cage, but a cage nonetheless. And Osteron steps forward, placing herself between Ab and their sire, a loyal shield maiden defending her queen from heresy itself. Honor? You speak of honor, old man? Honor did not feed us when we starved in the desert, and honor did not warm us when ponds froze up in the mountains. Honor is a word the rich use to keep the poor in their place. Our sire speaks of survival. That is the only law, the only purpose that matters. You would have us debate philosophy while our enemies sharpen their blades? Your weakness disgusts me. It is not weakness to believe that our actions must have meaning. We are no better than the jackals that fight over scraps in the gutter. Then what is the point of our immortality? We are building a legacy, child. What will yours be? What will ours be? That we are the most efficient thieves in the Levant? The unnamed raises a single hand, and the argument ceases instantly, and both children fall silent, turning their attention back to her, and she addresses Ab with a soft tone, like a mother explaining a difficult truth to a stubborn child. The legacy you speak of, my dear scholar, cannot be built upon a foundation of dust, and we need coin and supplies, and we need the freedom that these resources provide, and this is how we will acquire them. It is one step on a very long road. Do not mistake the path for the destination. Her words were meant to soothe, but her internal thoughts were much more darker, and addressing the core of his challenge to her authority. He questions my vision because his own is so small. He sees only this weary band of followers in this single dirty path. He cannot perceive the other seeds I have planted, the roots that spread in the shadows far from here. He believes this is the totality of my power, the entirety of my plan. Let him. A limited perspective is far easier to manage. And without another word, she turns and begins to outline her plans, her voice calm and clinical as she assigns roles. Nosteron given the role of confrontation, a clear reward for her loyalty, and the warrior will be her muscle. And Ab Alatif will be tasked with creating various diversions. A simple task that will keep him involved but remove him from the true violence. It is a calculated slight, and it is a lesson in obedience. And the organization takes further steps into the abyss. These crimes were not of passion or of desperation, but a calculated act that they would become what the world has made them. Predators operating outside the laws of God and men. And we will find ourselves later that night, with the target soon approaching, down a narrow alley along with the reek of garbage and wine. Everyone in position, and and Al-Latif, his face a mask of shame, starts a loud, drunken argument with a phantom figure down the street, drawing the attention of the local watch. The target later enters an alley draped in jewels and silks. And as she passes through the darkest points, Nastaran strikes, and she moves with the ferocity of a beast, utterly unhuman. She uses the pommel of her dagger to shatter a guard's kneecap, and delivers a precise palm strike to the throat of another, and they go down quickly. And now it was all but a blur in her dark place. And she turns to the magnet, frozen in horror. Nastaran's smile, a terrifying thing to behold. She had the pure, joyful sadism of a predator at play, and was enjoying the performance of being watched by her sire. The purse and the jewels, quickly now! My sire does not like to be kept waiting. And of course, terrified, Mastana would hand over the valuables, and they would collect the loot. And the Unnamed would step from the shadows to look at Mastana, who was forced to glare back, and her fear would be replaced by a burgeoning, helpless hatred. Yes! Look at me and remember this. Your hate is irrelevant. Your laws are irrelevant. Your plans do not matter. There is only my will and the necessity of my quest. And this gold will buy us weeks and delay our enemies and provide us more secrets. And the team will later retreat, leaving the ruined magnet standard in the alley. And while often quests like these don't often turn a profit, it is nice when they does pass by. And now we will not open in the harsh realities of the present of the grave robbery, but in memory. We will be back in the moonlit corner of the crowded streets of Jerusalem, just hours before the Unnamed and her order were forced to flee. And the sounds of the living city at night, the merchants hawking their wares, the murmurs of dozens of languages, the Unnamed is a ghost in the crowd, and her presence would be completely unnoticed, as she would watch a man deep in the deep shadows of the alcove, and his name was Khudyar. He will be one of the many servants within the merchant's house. He will be a man who had served under and in the home of the Diet of Olives. He will be plain, average, a warrior, and he would possess a face that you would forget the moment you looked away, and people would brush past him without a second glance. He was a master of being invisible. And in her own internal thoughts back then, a leader needs tools for every task. A sword for a battle, a mind for a puzzle, but more than anything, a leader needs an eye that can keep watch when she is gone. And when the order came to leave Jerusalem, I knew I could not abandon the city entirely. It is a nest of my enemies, and to leave it unwatched would be foolish. I needed to leave a part of myself behind. And not a mighty warrior who would draw attention, or a scholar who would be hunted for his books. I would need a man who would be a whisper, a shadow, who could walk freely in the daylight haunts of my rivals. And for days I have watched the people of this city, and I found Khudyar, and his skill was his utter lack of presence. He was a zealous lackey, born to be a spy. We would go back into the shaded dark room filled with grain and spices as she had cornered Khudyar, terrified but also mesmerized by her power. And the embrace was not a violent attack but a secret being shared. Quick, silent, and profound. She would lean in close to her new child and leave a command that would sink into his very soul. You will not travel with us. Your great journey will be to stay here in the city of lies. You are of the third house now. That name will be a danger to you, but it will also be a key. Some will fear you, but others, those who worship in the shadows, may seek you out. Use this. Use your gift for being unseen. You will be my eyes and ears, and you will learn the secrets of the princes who cast me out. You will watch my enemies and tell me when they plan to strike. That is your mission. You are my dagger, my hidden dagger. Do not fail me. And from the memories, of course, we will snap back into the present day as the company deep within the Middle East, high in the mountains. We were left barren in a desolate landscape of rocks and slick ice, and the gloom would haunt the crew, and we would now have a very exhausting war against the world. The road, a hungry beast that chews on the spirits of travelers and swallows people whole. In the mountains, of course, were the cruelest parts of the journey. Cold was a constant enemy, and every step was a roll of the dice. And in this frozen tundra, the road demanded many, many calls. And another life was taken from the unnamed flock. And it was all watching through the wheels of the supply wagon along an icy path. There would be a loud crack as the wheel shatters, and it would be one of the followers by the name of Pawns, who had they recently recruited, her intentions of eventually turning him into a ghoul. He would leap into action. The ropes! Hold the ropes! I can stop it! He would throw his strength against the wagon trying to halt its slide, but he would fall. And as he would slip, there would be silence, and then death. His eyes wide with the realization of his own lack of existence, he would be locked in its embrace. And his scream would be swallowed by the vast, uncaring emptiness of the canyon. And the price would be paid for the safety of a wagon. Oh, he's cold. And he's gone. Not by a rival's blade or flaw in my plan which I could correct, but by a patch of ice and a poorly made wheel. And it is all sloppy. And the world is a clumsy fool, breaking all of my toys. And this mountain now will owe me a debt that I will intend to repay in the future. And it was through these moments of crises that indifferent cruelty would threaten to wipe out the whole party. But eventually the true worth of her second child, Ab al-Latif, would shine through. While others despaired, he would fight. And while the warriors battled the terrain, he would battle death itself. For without his skill, it is certain that their small band would have perished entirely. And in the night, you would see men huddled around the fire, trying to shake off the cold of the winter of January. And the warriors who would have survived now look as they would be defeated by a simple cough. And Ab would move through this landscape like a grim angel of mercy. He was not a man of honor, but a doctor in the plague war. And he would work tirelessly, rubbing salves of his own onto the blackened, frost-biting fingers. He would force a hot, steaming broth down the throat of another who was too weak to lift his own head. And he would reset a broken bone with calm efficiency that was seemingly out of place in the chaotic misery of the camp. He would be their saving grace, and the only thing standing between the mortal members of their company and a frozen grave. And Nostaron could do very little here. She would have to stand apart, watching with a complex expression, and have to admirize his sharp, competitive edge. He is saving her sire's assets, but he's also proving his own immense value, which is a challenge for her. The old man is useful. He keeps the cattle from dying before they can be properly slaughtered. But it was through these moments of Ab's dedication to his craft that would lead him to a discovery far more profound than any cure for frostbite. It would unravel the very mystery that had tormented him, and it would prove that his sire's descent into crime was not a mortal failure, but a master stroke of strategy and war that he hadn't even known they were fighting. And as he was tending to one of the men that were wounded in a robbery of the magnet, the wound was a small cut from a guard's dagger, had refused to heal properly and had become badly infected. And as the scholar cleaned away the diseased flesh, his skilled fingers found something lodged deep in the muscle, and it was the broken tip of the dagger. And as he extracted it, he would notice a strange dark residue coating the metal. Instantly he would recognize it. A rare alchemical poison and a paralytic agent used almost exclusively by the assassins of the Banu Hakim vampire clan. And his mind would solve this puzzle. His brain would begin to race, and he would see that a piece that did not fit the puzzle he was looking at right now. This poison. A simple guard for a city merchant would never possess such a thing. It is too rare, too expensive. It is the tool of a Canaanite assassin. So that guard was not a guard, he was something more. And if he was something more, then Mastana. And he would think back and replay the memories of the event. The merchant they robbed, he remembers hearing whispers that that man was a ghoul and a servant of the powerful Torador vampire. The caravan they were paid to divert its route, a known supply line for a pack of Bruja zealots. And it all began to click into place. And then a terrifying pattern would emerge from what he had thought was random chaos. And later that night, he would approach the Unnamed's tent. He was no longer a shamed accomplice or a weary doctor, and his eyes burned with the fire of a man who had just peered into the mind of a god. And he carried the poisoned dagger tip on a clean cloth, and he kneeled before her. "My sire, I have been a fool. This dagger tip," as he presented it to her, "is coated with the poison of the Banu Hakim. Mastana's guard was a vampire's tool, and all of them robberies. The robberies, they were not robberies. They were targeted attacks. They were disrupting supply lines, exposing agents, waging a secret war against our enemies, all while making them believe we were nothing more than a desperate bandit." And as he looked at her, his face a mask of utter awe. The shame he had felt for their criminal acts was transformed into a profound respect. You knew this all along. This was your grand design. To make our rivals underestimate us. To make them lower their guard while you dismantled their power piece by piece. I accused you of having no honor when in truth you were playing a game of jihad so subtle, so brilliant. I was too blind to see it. And the Unnamed would look down at the dagger tip and then at the face of her earnest, worshipful child. She would say nothing and offer a small, almost imperceptible shrug. A gesture of shy confusion is the most profound lie she has ever told. And in her own inner thoughts, she would be like a weaver who will find a random tangle of threads had accidentally created a beautiful pattern. I knew they were my enemies. I could smell the scent of predators on them. My instincts guided my hand. But a grand design? A master plan? No. I simply struck at what felt wrong. Now he has given my actions a brilliant logic I did not possess. He has built a temple of strategy that is sound around my hut of survival. He has become a most wonderful tool. And let him believe I am a genius. Faith is a stronger chain than fear. And Ab remained kneeling. His loyalty, which was broken by his own principles, was now forged into something stronger. And he was no longer just a follower or a child. He was a true believer. And he had seen the mind of his God, and he was humbled. And the Unnamed would look past him to where Nastaron watches from the shadows. and her expression would be tight with the sharper jealousy. The old man had won a major victory in their war for the sire's favor, and the game would change once again. The truth had reforged them. The Unnamed company was no longer a band of weary fugitives, but a dedicated cell in a hidden war. And with Ab's faith restored and Nosteron's ambitions burning brighter than ever, they will move with a new purpose. Every contract, a chance to uncover a rival's plot. Every interrogation, every precise strike from the shadows, an opportunity to grow and gain greatness. Their efficiency did not go unnoticed. Success in the world of the night always attracts unwanted attention. And then we'll open in the camp. They will have completed another intelligence mission, but this success is followed by a new problem. In the new routine for hunt for blood, they will be ambushed by a well-armed militia of locals. We found their lair! For the righteous Jesus Christ, leave none of these monsters alive! An ensuring fight would be swift, as the Unnamed's followers would deal with this mortal threat rather easily. But as the Unnamed stand over the bodies, her expression was cold. These hunters are a symptom, not the disease. And they are learning. They stir up the locals and use them as hounds to flush us out. It is an effective method, but it is loud. And they leave ripples. And for every agent we eliminate, they raise a village against us. And we cannot win this war with subtlety alone. And a knife is useless against the tidal wave. And we need a wall. We need a hammer. And with this realization, it inspired a shift in her strategy. And this is also when a arrival from a visitor. And a reminder that she was not being watched by her enemies, but also by her supposed kin. She was paid a visit by Count Matthew, her cousin, with a small, polished entourage. Dearest cousin, it is a joy to see you looking so purposeful. I trust the world is treating you well. He comes with smiles and pleasantries, but I know where his eyes are. He is measuring our strength in numbers, and he is a predator assessing his rival. And then Matthew later in gestures a handsome silver-tongued courtier by the name of Gregory. And he would look at the Unnamed and her company with disdain. I thought you might have use of a man with political talents. Gregory here is a warrior and a master of persuasion. I give him to you as a gift to help with your ongoing enterprise. And Gregory would offer a bow so stiff it was almost an insult. And his hostility was palpable. He was a humanist who sees the Bali as nothing more than vile monsters. My cousin has given me a fox to guard the hen house, a spy, and a source of dissent to trouble my camp while he watches from afar. Very well, let him stay. I will give him exactly what he expects to see, and nothing more. Cousin Matthew, we are grateful for any aid, cousin. Gregory is welcome. And Gregory joined the camp, and as predicted, he is an immediate source of friction. He would question orders, speak honey words of dissent, and watch the Unnamed's every move with a judgmental glare. He was a living cancer in their midst. And the Unnamed was now fighting a war on two fronts. A secret war against her enemies, and a quiet war against disloyal agents within her own camp. And this confluence of threats solidified her new resolve, and the time for half measures was over. And now, we would see the true power of the Bali unleashed. And she would gather her inner circle, and even Gregory would be present, and the air would be thick with anticipation. We have relied on the strength of mortal arms and subtlety for too long, and these tools are insufficient. The board is changing, and our enemies use the mortal world as their shield and their sword. And we will now answer with a power they cannot comprehend. We have an abundance of faith, and we will draw from it. We will not hire an army or recruit one, but create it. And as she closed her eyes and reached out with her will, she would pull forth and utter hellish chants, and through the swelling of a vortex, she would offer her devotion as a sacrifice to the dark entities her bloodline serve, and in return they would grant her soldiers. For a true infernalist of the Via Diabolis, faith is not a comfort but a currency, and she was willing to make that purchase. And we would show demonic figures pulling themselves from the souls of the camp as some of the mortals would fall and collapse. And these demonic thralls were tough, silent, and utterly loyal creatures of nightmare. Animals and prisoners would writhe later at the same time in this moment as a ghoul mob would be formed at the same time. The camp had been transformed, and now instead of just mortals and vampires, there would be the ranks of demonic thralls and a heaving, moaning horde of ghouls. And the Unnamed force would become over 1,000 strong overnight. And Gregory, of course, his smug expression would disappear and be replaced with pure terror. And Ab al-Latif would look upon the seed with awe and dread, and Nastaron would fall to one knee. "You are a goddess, my sire! You have given birth to an army!" And with this new terrifying base, the Unnamed strategy grows. She still will utilize schemes, but they are now backed with force. And she will accept many quests and try to walk on a path in hopes of being unstoppable. And as she watched her new army, her gaze would fall upon Gregory, who is failing to blend in. He looks at the thralls with fear, and at her with a more terrified hatred. And so the spy remains. A loose thread. I could have him killed, but that is a waste. His mind is a great asset, and they're simply pointed in the wrong direction. And I will not break this toy, I will just rewind it. And her solution to this problem was of absolute control. She would not expel or execute him, but herd Gregory. As a shepherd herds a troublesome sheep, she would try to place a collar around his soul. And she would once summon Gregory to her tent, and he would enter cautiously expecting an interrogation, but instead she offers him a cup. "You do not approve of my methods, Gregory. I can see it in your eyes. You believe me to be a monster. You command an army of demons and things that should not be. What else would you call yourself?" And the Unnamed would give Gregory a small smile. "Oh, Gregory, I am a pragmatist. I'm a leader who does what is necessary to protect her people. But you will never see that. Your loyalties are divided. And this creates an imbalance and a weakness in my camp. And we must rectify that immediately." And she would gesture a warrior to walk in. A strong but simple warrior who she had chosen, and she had already fed him her blood, making him a ghoul bound to her will. "I will offer you a choice. You can leave this camp now and take your chances with the monsters of the wilderness, both human and otherwise, or you can stay. You can become part of my circle and be my champion, and all it requires is a small show of loyalty, a drink, a sacrament to bind you to our cause, to me." And she would hold out her wrist where a drop of her black blood would well into the cup. The offer was clear. He could become her ghoul, and his will be forever subsumed by hers and enslaved by the blood bond, where he would keep his skills and intellect, and they would belong to her as a loyal puppet, or flee and take a chance with the mortals outside. He would look from her wrist into the blank, obedient face of the other ghouls, and then deep into her empty eyes. He would see no malice or anger, but a calm, absolute certainty. He would see that he has no choice. He would be a spy sent to her camp, and he would eventually become her most unwilling servant. And his mind would be hers, and he would no longer be a fox in the henhouse, but a prize sheep, being led gently to the slaughter of his own free will. But that is a story for another day.